We always want to remind you that this teaching is a modern articulation of ancient truth founded by Dr. Ernest Holmes. One of his famous statements was, "The physical universe and everything in it is the visible evidence of an incredible intelligence at work, operating through a field of love, which brings things together that belong together." And it has brought us all here today because we belong together, and this teaching is for everyone. We like to begin every week with, we call it spiritual mind treatment, but it really is a way of using our mind very consciously to create a field, a vibration, a frequency that has power, and the power that it contains is felt by everyone who walks in this room. So let's begin simply by allowing our mind to float inward as it is always inclined to do. And we declare that it is so, that incredible intelligence operating in a field of love known as God or Spirit is everywhere, all the time, all of it, all at once. It does one thing. It reveals itself in form. Simply because it must. It cannot remain hidden. In all that fullness, it bursts into visibility, ever becoming, ever diversifying itself, multiplying itself, turning itself into individualizations of itself. And so every sentient life is spirit in form, and that includes each and every one of us. So we gather here today to remind ourselves of that profound truth and to allow it to become a part of how we perceive ourselves as the joy of being made manifest, as love made manifest, as peace, as supply, as everything we could possibly require to fully express our higher nature. That is who we are. That is our source. And so today I know for everybody watching online, everybody in this room, I know for all of humanity that we are on the precipice of a major awakening, that it is a tipping point, and that each one of us is a part of that beautiful breaking through ignorance and false ideas, expressing truth as never before. We know that this has been coming since ancient times, and now is the time. This idea has become what the world needs. And so we affirm that, we celebrate it, we're grateful for it, we let it be, and it sets the tone for everything we do today. So let's know together it is done, and say it together. And so it is. Thank you. Are you ready to sing this wonderful new song?
Yes, yes.
Are you ready to sing? Let's open up our hearts and minds and our voices. And here's some wonderful new words to a great old song, "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning." I think you all know it.
Yes, but just watch the screen and you'll see the new words. Okay. There's a bright golden feeling of gladness. There's a bright golden feeling of gladness. The song when you lose every fear and you hold to the truth that makes all things so clear. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a beautiful feeling, everything's going my way. It is love that keeps my heart rejoicing. It is love that keeps my heart rejoicing. The richness of spirit fills each tiny cell with a melody thrilling and making me well. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I have a beautiful feeling. Everything is coming my way. All the blessings of God are like music. All the blessings of God are like music. Its harmony, love, and its peace are all free and are showing us beauty in all that we see. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling. All good is coming my way. All good is coming my way.
All right. Well, now that we've got our voices opened up, let's say our group reading together. It's in your program. Ready? There is one life, both visible and invisible, one presence, one mind, one power is all. That one that is all is perfect love and perfect intelligence. I am an individualized expression of all that it is. I am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect intelligence. All right. I'm going to ask Jim to come up and be our candle lighter today. We light individual candles that represent some aspect of our being. And I'm going to do it a little differently today. Instead of having you affirm at the end of each section, I'm going to do it all at the end. So we'll just light the candles and then we'll speak our truth. The first candle is for life, that which lives in and through each one of us. There's only one life. It's Spirit's life. That life is my life. And we light a candle for love, that unifying, harmonizing force that brings everything together, that belongs together. We each are points of love within the heart of Spirit. And we light a candle for light. Everything is light. We are all coalesced light. We each radiate it, the intelligence of Spirit, wherever we are. And we light a candle for beauty. We are made in the image and likeness of Spirit, which must be beautiful. We each express the beauty of Spirit's perfection as our perfection now. And we light a candle for joy. Joy, the very nature of Spirit and the true essence of each one of us. It's the most natural feeling of all life. And we light a candle for peace. I light a candle for peace. Today and every day we open our hearts to peace. We are each a center of peace in our world. And now let's say together out loud all of these. I am life.
I am life.
I am love.
I am love.
I am light.
I am light.
I am beauty.
I am beauty.
I am joy.
I am joy.
I am peace.
I am peace.
And finally, I invite each of you to take a moment to be aware of your own inner light. Everybody has a light that shines out, that radiates from them. And everywhere we go, we are always welcome because that light precedes us and lights our path. Thank you, Jim. And now it's time to turn it back over to Jennifer for a song, and then we will hear from our beloved Reverend Kate, who I believe is speaking about freedom today. Right? Go ahead.
And my song is about freedom. It's from the musical Shenandoah, and it's all about that freedom is not a place you can go to. You can't take a boat there. You can't take a train. Freedom is something else. Freedom ain't a state like Maine or Virginia. Freedom ain't a place you float to find. Freedom is a flame that burns within ya. Freedom's in the state of your mind. Freedom, 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 freedom. Freedom is a flame that burns within ya. Freedom's in the state of mind. Freedom ain't a boat that's leaving without ya. Freedom ain't a place you float to find. Freedom is the how ya think about ya. Freedom's in the state of mind. Freedom, 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 freedom. Freedom is the how ya Think about your freedoms in the state of your mind. Now you can't get to freedom by riding on a train. The only way to freedom is right on through your brain. Freedom is a notion sweeping the nation. Freedom is the right of all mankind. Freedom is a body's imagination. Freedom's in the state of mind. Freedom, 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 freedom. Freedom is a notion sweeping the nation. Freedom is a body's imagination. Freedom is a full-time occupation. Freedom's in the state of your mind.
Okay, so I'm wearing sunglasses because I had a little thing with my eyes and the light maybe bothers me a little bit. So, but I'm fine. It is what we call a temporary unwanted condition, and it is on its way out, so don't worry about it. And I'm so happy to be able to be here the day after the 4th of July, and I know I was listening, and a lot of people went and saw fireworks or did something fun yesterday, and if you didn't, we've got some watermelon and things for our potluck coming later. But it's kind of nice, isn't it, that this country, America, has survived for 250 years. And so this is, you know what this day is? This is the beginning of the next 250 years, right? We're starting fresh. It's a wonderful day, a new beginning. We don't have to think so much about yesterday, although there were some great fireworks shows. That's true. And there's been a lot of, talk about what does it mean for the country to be 250 years old, and how are we ever going to survive the bickering that's going on amongst us about this? But of course, if you do look back over time, that's kind of the American way. It's like freedom of expression means everybody gets to say whatever crazy thing they're thinking at any time, right? So we have that as part of our life as a nation. And, I was thinking about how the founding of our nation is portrayed today compared to how it was portrayed when I was a kid. And I thought, well, yeah, when I was a kid, what I learned about George Washington was that he chopped down a cherry tree, his parents got mad, and he admitted it. He said, I cannot tell a lie, I did chop down the cherry tree. And of course now, it turns out that was just a fable. Right? It wasn't true at all. He didn't actually go out and chop down a cherry tree when he was a kid. I mean, they only had axes, and even today, children don't get to use chainsaws or anything. They're not going to go out with an axe and chop down a cherry tree without anyone noticing, I don't think. But, why do we have these fables? Why do they spring up? They just spring up almost by themselves. Because somehow in that fable, in that fabulous, and I don't know, fabulous and fable have the very same root. And if you've heard of a person called a fabulist, what are they? But a glorified liar, right? Who's a storyteller, a fabulous. So we do have some fabulous fables, like the story of George Washington and the apple tree. And you might be thinking right now to yourself, what does this have to do with our new thought teaching? What does this have to do with our ideas about freedom? Well, one of the things, besides the fact that it's a holiday and we ought to have a little fun, but one of the things that we understand to be true is that We live in consciousness. We are conscious beings living in consciousness. And each one of us has an individualized consciousness, which is the basically the expression of the greater field of consciousness in which we all live and have our being. We say there's only one thing, life itself, and that it becomes constantly, it is constantly in a state of becoming through making everything out of itself, because there's simply nothing else except this creative energy that we call life or spirit or the divine. But not only are we individuals in this creative allness, we're also together in groups, right? So we have a culture, a shared culture, and the early New Thought people like to call it race consciousness, which meant kind of the cultural consciousness of the human race or any particular group. It's a shared viewpoint, a shared experience, and so we get these ideas that come together. And so I was trying to think about, you know, how does that work? How does this thing develop? And what can we do to influence it? And how does that relate to storytelling? So I was thinking, of course, I don't know why, because it's maybe the 4th of July. I was thinking about that old game that has fallen out of favor now that people understand what germs are, called bobbing for apples. Does anyone ever bob for apples? Yeah. I don't think they do that, at least not at schools anymore, because everybody puts their head in. But they have new ways to do it, where they use a ladle or spatula or something sanitary. Anyway, if you think about bobbing for apples, and they had a big tub of water, right? Put a bunch of apples in. So forget about the apples for a minute and just think about that big tub of water. It's still, left to its own devices. It's very still. But if a kid throws an apple into the middle of the water, what happens? It makes a wave. The wave goes out like a ripple, and when it hits the sides, it comes back in, and it might cross an original wave. And when you keep putting more and more apples into it, pretty soon you could, if you had a whole bunch of kids standing around the tub all throwing in apples, it could become quite turbulent, quite agitated, quite a lot of circulation going on. So I want to just suggest that's what storytellers do. Storytellers are tossing stories into our shared consciousness, our shared story, our shared system of belief. They're throwing these stories into us, and they are causing ripples, crossing over, and having an impact in a way of making this pond of life lively. So, you know, if you do think about a pond, you could think about a puddle being quite stagnant, or you could think about a pond with a lot of activity and animals and fish swimming around and how lively it is. So in circulation, whether it's the circulation of apples being thrown in the water, the circulation of a pond full of frogs hopping around, or the circulation of stories running through a culture, this circulation keeps the ideas flowing. And one of the things that perhaps you know, is a lot of the stories that have been passed down to us, let's say in Western culture, have their roots, very, very deep roots, from all over the world, because they're universal lessons. And it's also interesting if you think about how they have changed and morphed over the years. So anyway, I figured today would be a good day to talk about some stories instead of your traditional science of mind lessons. And I wanted to see if I couldn't find some stories that would shed a little light on the topic of freedom. So it came to my mind that one of the stories, well, that might be helpful. Well, first, before I say that, because I'm not exactly reading this word for word on account of looking with sunglasses. But anyway, so I don't want to forget to say this when I'm talking about stories. You know, my mother was an author before she was a minister, and she specialized in children's stories, and or stories for teenagers, really. But she said, actually, there's only one story, and that story is Cinderella. All stories are some version of the Cinderella story. And I think you may know that Joseph Campbell, who was very famous, and actually even the inspiration, some of his stories were the inspiration for the Star Wars movies and the things that he taught. Well, he wrote a book and talked about this story being the hero with 1,000 faces. And I just wanted to, mention that too, that there is this very healthy repetition of these ideas. And as they get repeated, they also get transformed and adapted and made more specific to us. So, I have a few favorites. And one that I thought perhaps everyone here probably knows about is the story of Snow White, right? And they were, you know that? Yeah, at least you know the Disney version, if you don't know the old version. The story of Snow White, of course, is about a beautiful young girl who was so kind, so gentle, so beautiful. Why do we keep talking about the story? Well, it's not because she ended up doing housekeeping for the 7 dwarves, little men that Disney cleverly named Dopey and Grumpy and Doc, Sleepy. It's not just because the huntsman was so kind he didn't chop her head off when the evil queen sent him out to the woods. I think that the reason why we tell this story is not just because she lived happily ever after and married the Prince Charming. I think this story keeps going because of the poison apple. That scary bit of the story. The part of the story that keeps it alive. Because this idea of watching out for this poison apple. It's like, yes, do be good. Do be a good girl or a good boy. Yes, do be kind. Yes, do be generous. But meanwhile, don't be tricked. Don't be misled by a false imposter pretending to be nice. Protect yourself. Stay alert. Be good. Be kind. But don't let yourself be fooled by anyone. Protect yourself and stay free from harm. And isn't that what we really wish all our children to learn? Being good and staying safe and living happily ever after. Isn't that what we would wish for the next generation, the younger generation, or maybe even for each other, right? And there are lots of stories about princesses, lots of stories about little boys on adventure like Jack and the Beanstalk, and all their adventures. And one of my most favorite stories, maybe not quite as popular, although recently there was a Disney movie about it too, is called The Snow Queen. I like Hans Christian Andersen's version of The Snow Queen. And the story has a very long introduction. So I'm going to share part of the story with you because I think it kind of touches home on what I'm talking about. It has a very long introduction, which I think is actually kind of like having a whole story on its own. And then afterwards it has a story about our little hero and heroine. And I think it reflects a lot about what we teach. And you know, some of these stories, well, like even Snow White, I looked it up a little bit. Snow White is possibly thought to have been based on a story from Egypt or Mesopotamia that's thousands of years old. But it has evolved into a story that is told here today. So anyway, let me read you a little bit from The Snow Queen. Well, now let us begin. When we have got to the end of the story, we shall know more than we do at present. It is all about a wicked troll, the worst of them all, the devil. Of course, we don't believe in devils, but the devil is something, right? It's a story. One day, he was in a really good humor, for he had made a mirror, which had this virtue, if you could call it a virtue, that everything good and beautiful which was reflected in it would shrink to almost nothing, but that everything that was worthless and hideous would appear huge and distinctly and magnified. The most beautiful landscapes would look like boiled spinach. And the best of people would look hideous or would be seen as standing on their heads with no stomach in their bodies. And their faces would be so distorted that no one could even recognize them. And if one had a little blemish, the mirror would be sure to spread it all over their nose and mouth. It is most amusing, said this devil. If a good, pious thought passed through a person's mind, it would be reflected as hideously in the mirror that this chief of the trolls would have to laugh at his crafty invention. All those who went to his troll school, for he kept such a school, went about telling everybody that a miracle had happened. Now, at last, someone could see what the world and mankind really looked like. They ran about with the mirror until at last there was not a country or a human being that had not been reflected and distorted by it. And now, this group of trolls wanted to fly up to heaven with it and mock at the angels and the Lord. And the higher they flew with the mirror, the more distorted and ridiculous the reflections became until they could barely stop laughing. They thought it was so Snow Queen. But alas, she couldn't rescue her friend Kay of the Snow Queen's power. And that sliver of ice had spread until his whole heart was icy and hard. And while at first he was sad about it, eventually he was perfectly content in the palace. And so when Gerda finally arrived, she discovered to her dismay that Kay no longer cared for her or even thought about his old friend at all. But like all fairy tale heroes, she was so true in her beliefs that she hugged him anyway. And she began to weep, and her hot tears fell onto his chest, penetrating into his heart, and actually melted the ice. And then that made him burst into tears himself. And when he did, that sliver of mirror fell from his eye, and suddenly he too could see clearly again. And so they were able to escape from the Snow Queen, escape from the icy palace, and head off into the springtime, into the summer land, and go back home where, according to the story, they found grandmother sitting in the sun, reading aloud from the Bible this passage: "Except ye become as little children, ye shall in no wise enter into the kingdom of God." Now, I just want to say something, because all the times when I've read that passage, which is said to have been said by Jesus, "Except ye become as little children," I'm like, well, how are we going to become a child again? But maybe it's something different. Maybe the word become, because it's been through a lot of translations, maybe the word become is something we should think of as relating to becoming. Once we enter into the act of becoming, of growing, of learning, like little children, once we have an open heart, an open mind, once we're ready to learn like beginners, a beginner mind, perhaps that's what is meant by that idea of becoming as little children and entering into the kingdom of God, which we do understand, Jesus said, was, of course, within ourselves. So Snow White, Snow Queen, these are just two stories of many, two stories about young people being held captive in a timeless place of no action, perfectly still, no activity, no change, no experience of what we call livingness. Snow White was enchanted and enslaved and held in a glass coffin. In fact, one of the early versions really did have her as a slave rather than a housekeeper for those little men. And in the Snow Queen, the little boy Kay was enchanted and enslaved in a castle of cold ice and cold dreams. It all happened through no particular fault of their own, unless you call ignorance a fault. Snow White and Kay were tricked. They were tricked into being captured. They were fooled. They were made captive and cut off from their good until They were rescued by what? By helpers. By love. By friendship, by kindness, by faith, by courage, courageousness. Until they were rescued from what? They were rescued from bondage, captivity, delusion, from lives that were frozen in time. Right? We talk about freedom as being free from bondage, freedom as being free from limitation. And that's what these stories are about. The children, the heroes, woke up. And once they were awake, they discovered they were free. And they found they could see clearly. They could see how to live happily ever after in a state of freedom, in love, in friendship, with everything they ever needed without fear of being fooled by anyone ever again. Right? We say they learned their lesson, right? But they didn't learn it alone. They were helped. And in these cases, they didn't even have to ask for help. They were helped spontaneously. And this is what we do for each other all the time, you know? And also why we should never be afraid to ask for help. I believe our world is more lively, more alive because of stories. And I really wanted to share this story today. And I hope that by sharing these stories, maybe I will have inspired you to tell each other your favorite stories. You know, and they can just be simple stories about yourself. And that's really one of the fun things about getting together on Sunday and having a little time to spend together after this part of the service is over. It gives us a chance to share. Oh, I had this adventure and it turned out great. I had this other adventure. Here's what I learned, right? Because the thing is, whether they're based on your own life experiences or whether they have caught hold in your mind because you read them or heard them somewhere, these stories that circulate are evolving because they have a lesson for us today. So, when we think about this saying attributed to Jesus, except you become as little children, you shall in no wise enter into the kingdom of God. Do you have the idea that there's some kind of a door, you know, you need to go through? Well, what I have learned, the door isn't locked or barricaded. There's no door that separates us from our good that is put in place by anyone or anything else. There are no wicked trolls flying around in the sky making spells. It's just not so. The door, the barricade, is of our own making, happening in our own thoughts. It simply means that it's time for us to have the curiosity and the wisdom and the truthfulness to see clearly and enter into that kingdom which is already right within each one of us, giving us the freedom that is our birthright. Now, Ernest Holmes, who wrote The Science of Mind, taught that freedom is the birthright of every living soul, and that true freedom, true liberty, has something cosmic behind it. that we are all tied into this indivisible unity. And he suggested that when we find our way to a real feeling of this unity, that is when we will find our way to the real meaning of freedom. A New Thought legend, let's call her a legend, Emma Curtis Hopkins, taught that the power of God is freedom. And that it is, as Jesus Christ said, that all who know truth are free. So, anyway, that's my idea of a not exactly traditional talk about freedom, but just to know freedom really is something that is always welling up within us, always wanting to be an expression. And as we embark on the next 250 years of the American experiment, right? That's what it's called sometimes, the American experiment. Or as you embark on your week of your own personal experiment in living this week, be willing to notice the stories all around you. Be willing to take and pay attention and take note. Be willing to see and judge for yourself. Ah, this is true. Ah, this is maybe not so much, because that's how we exercise our freedom. So thank you, everyone, and happy 5th of July. So thank you all.
Well, here's another song about freedom. River, it likes to flow. Freedom, it likes to fly. Eagle, it likes to feel its wings against the sky. Possum, it likes to run. Ivy, it likes to climb. Bird in the tree and the bumblebee want freedom in the autumn or summertime. Now, ever since the day when the world was an onion, it was natural for the spirit to soar and play the way the Lord wanted it, free as the sun is free. That's how it's got to be. Whatever is right for the bumblebee and the river, and the eagle is right for me. Now, ever since the day when the world was an onion, it was natural for the spirit to soar and play the way the Lord wanted it, free as the sun is free. That's how it's got to be. Whatever is right for the bumblebee and the river, and the eagle is right for me. Oh, we got to be free, the eagle and me, and the fishes in the sea, all the birdies in the tree, You and me, we all got to be free. The eagle and me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was a great little song. It is. All right. It's time for conscious giving. How many of you remember that if you didn't go to the bank on Friday to get money for the weekend, you were out of luck? You couldn't write a check in the movies or at a restaurant. Well, we made it real easy today. You can PayPal, Venmo, get on our website, and donation link will take you right to where you need to be to make a donation. We know that you love this place and that you support it very generously, and we thank you for that. And also for those of you outside watching online, thank you for your gifts. We do receive them from time to time, and it makes all the difference in how we can, do the things we want to do here and provide the programs we want to provide. So in your program, there is something, an affirmation to remind us of our good and how life flows through us. I just have to dig it out here. And I invite us to say it together. It's the Conscious Giving affirmation, and it's at the bottom of your program. Ready? Say it like you've never said it before. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I am, and all that I give. I know this is so, and so it is. And so let's sing like we mean it. I am so blessed. And in the second chorus, we do, we are so blessed.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. Now, we are so blessed. We are so blessed. We are so blessed. We are so grateful for all that we have. We are so blessed. We are so blessed. We are so grateful. We are so blessed.
Thank you. Thank you again. Just a few announcements, and of course we want to welcome everybody here. If this is your first time with us, please pick up a welcome packet on your way out the door to give you a little bit of information about the teaching. And we'd like to get to know you better if you haven't been here before. So stay for our potluck. Oh boy, it's going to be good today. I saw some yummy things out there. And also it's birthday Sunday. So anyone have a birthday in July? Jan. Jan does, and my daughter Maggie does too. But we'll sing to you today. Okay, ready? Happy birthday.
And our country.
Yes, our country, but we're singing to Jan today.
To USA. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to everybody. Happy birthday to you and many more.
Very nice. Today and every Sunday, our gift to you as practitioners, licensed practitioners, is the opportunity to have a spiritual mind treatment with us. It's a one-on-one, not a counseling. It's fairly brief, but it's worth it. And you will find that your mind shifts. And we invite you to take advantage of that by, there's Reverend Kay, there's myself, there's Larry, who's a practitioner. Anyone else? Just give us a little tap on the shoulder and we'll take you aside. It's all confidential and there's no charge on Sunday, so it's our gift. You can also fill out a form and put it in the Spiritual Mind Treatment request box in the foyer, and we will handle that very confidentially as well. Okay, let's see what else is there. I think that's about it. Thank you to all our volunteers. Well, that's the most important one of all. We can't do this without you guys. So Daryl and Johnny, thank you so much, and JP, and Morgan for the flowers, and whoever did what today. And welcome back, Ruth Ann. It's lovely to see you again. So I think that's it. Any other announcement, anyone? No? Okay. Great. So stay for the potluck. We'll have a great time together, and let's sing our closing song. And it's on the back of the program. You can't stop.
Open your heart, let your love go free, out over the ocean, right across the street. Let it flow like a river, let it fly like a dove, till your heart remembers you can't stop love. Once you get it started, watch what it does. It'll go full circle. You can't stop love. Again, open your heart. Let your love go free. Out over the ocean, right across the street. Let it flow like a river, let it fly like a dove, till your heart remembers you can't stop love. Once you get it started, watch what it does. It'll go full circle. You can't stop love.